rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the khutbah earlier today, almost very brief in passing, almost mentioned the ayat from the ayah from the Quran. Inna dhanna la yughni min al-haqqi shay'a. All right, comes in two places in the Quran. One specifically, you can look in Surah Al-Najm. It's a short, you'll see it there, inshallah. Yani in terms of ma'na, meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent us here. And when He sends us here, when we are born, how much knowledge do we have? Zero, right? We're starting from scratch. The only knowledge that we have is actually an instinctive or subconscious knowledge. If you like, it's very difficult in English, right, to categorize it, but you and I would know it as fitrah, right? That fitri knowledge, meaning there's an aspect, with the ruh, when the ruh is placed into the badan, into the physical form of the baby in the womb of the mother, okay, that knowledge of la ilaha illallah is there. Okay? Now, but when you're born, outside of that, you're starting from scratch. Now, that being the case, how much of what goes on around us is actually correct in the sight of Allah? Per the amr of Allah, per the sunnah of whatever Nabi is alive at that time, how much of what actually occurs in the world is actually in line with Mashiatullah, with the Iradatullah, with what Allah wants? If you had to give it a percentage, what would you call it? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60? Oh, I'm interactive. So if I ask you a question, I actually want you to answer. It's not like the khutbah. There you can't do it. Now you can. What would you call it?
I'll say 100% because everything is the will of Allah.
No. In alignment. So when Allah Ta'ala says, because now, like, this is a whole other thing. We're going to have to talk about this. This is where people mess up with the understanding of aqeedah, right? And qadrullah. What we're talking about here is Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala wants what for humanity? Salvation, right? Najat, rahmah, mercy, compassion, very generic translation, right? Maghfirah, forgiveness, isn't it? Allah Ta'ala wants to give us His fadl. Allah Ta'ala is trying to love us, just wants us to love Him back. What do you mean? No. So now, but in line with that though. So if you look at the 5 pillars, right? So if you're saying the 5 pillars, because that's Islam, by the definition of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Hadith Jibreel. So now if you look at the 5 pillars, we'll use that as an example. How much of the world is actually, forget about non-Muslims, isn't it? How many of us? Because Allah wants Islam. Because Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, how many deens are there to Allah? 1. What is it? That's it. So there's only one acceptable lifestyle. Not 2, not 1.5, not version 2.0, just 1. And that lifestyle is known as deen. That's the translation. Deen. Okay? So the deen of the vast majority of the people on this earth is what? Kufr, shirk. And now when we get to the Muslim community, mashallah, based on our very definition of Islam, per our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how many of us are actually even doing that? Those 5 pillars. I would even make an argument to say that yet, inshallah, it is happening, will happen, we will keep working. You would be surprised how many Muslims don't even know what they believe in. They have never taken a proper aqeedah course. The only thing they got was like, the Sunday school level, like la ilaha illallah, and like maybe they put a little rhyme to it and everything. Like, mashallah, 2nd, 3rd grade, and that was it. And those of you who've ever taught Sunday school or anything, you know what happens. Like by the time they hit like roughly about 6th grade, they start to lose interest. And if the teachers are not captivating, if they cannot keep the interest, then they lose those kids. The kids don't even want to go, much less like if they do show up, that they're paying attention and actually getting some benefit. And then there's a whole nother issue is the teacher even qualified to teach? You know how many places I've gone where they've asked me to come in and do assessments, right? To assess their academic endeavors, let's say, right? And I, like, kid you not, there are numerous teachers that tell me that they are literally either that morning or that night sitting there and going over that material themselves. When I told them, like, you're not qualified to be a teacher, they were like, well, why not? Like, I think I'm understanding. It's like, here's how you'll know when you're qualified. You won't need that book. So the fact that you're looking at the book that morning or last night is a very strong indication that you are not qualified to teach these children. Now, this is our deen. That's the first pillar. Know your deen and then believe in it. That's the first pillar. So now, in this environment of kufr, shirk, and nifaq, and you and I are being born into it, no knowledge, outside of the fitri exposure, what do you think is going to happen to us mentally? It's cause and effect. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. I can take say for instance, if I take a kid that's from a rich neighborhood and an affluent family, right? And then as a baby, I take him and I stick him with a family who's living in the ghetto in the hood, right? Is that going to have an effect? Is it going to matter that, well, he was born to rich parents? Is that going to matter? No, not really. Why? Because the environment has now taken over. And the only thing that is going to be able to negate or offset that environment or bring everything back into balance is somebody who actually knows what that balance is, what it looks like, and how to achieve it. Is that us as babies, kids, even high schoolers, college students? No. So what happens is we, over a period of time in our lives, our cognitive framework, right, is now influenced as it develops. And we start adopting certain understandings, notions, conclusions, hypotheses, theories, etc., which unbeknownst to us, because of our ignorance, is completely out of alignment with Islam. So what we end up doing is adopting a different attitude and a different worldview because we are different. Because the effort hasn't been made yet to bring us in alignment with Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wa ma ja'a bih, and what he came with. Okay, so let's take a look at something as an example, inshallah. We mentioned about marriage, mashallah, in the khutbah also. So I'm going to put a case study in front of you. Here is an application, if you will, a CV, a resume for a marriage. This is the brother. Now, for those of you, should be all of you, hopefully, who have mothers, daughters, sisters, wives, aunties, cousins, females in your family, I want you to ask yourself a question. Because you're going to see where I'm going with this pretty quickly. You guys are pretty smart, mashallah. You're very intelligent. So you're going to see where I'm going this, right, almost like from the beginning. So you're going to see where I'm going with this. So now ask yourself, would you honestly, because I'm not asking you, so there's no sense for you lying to yourself. This is an internal question. Don't lie to yourself. Would you marry one of the ladies in your family to this individual? And if you are a sister and you are watching this, would this individual be acceptable to you? Here's his description. Allahu Akbar. He's an orphan. Grew up being handed to different family members. Illiterate. He's uneducated. He does not have a degree at all. Actually, think about it. He can't read or write. which means basically we're talking about an elementary level education. Yes? He believed in being armed and self-defense. He owned slaves. Sometimes had no food. His houses weren't houses. We call them houses or the homes of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But for any of you who are aware of like the dimensions and everything, you and I, based on our current understanding and perception of space, we would call them rooms, not houses. So you can imagine almost like a wife having like a room, or at best, like, you know, maybe we'd be able to like upgrade it to a studio apartment. That was their lifestyle. On top of that, financially, this same individual is constantly having to pawn things, his possessions. He's always pawning something. He's dealing with debts. He's got debt collectors, Jewish debt collectors also. Yeah? And then 11 wives. Maybe we're not doing it right. Maybe we would have a different experience if we were doing marriage right. So out of those 11 wives, the first one was 15 years older than him. She was 40 years old. His next one was 8. And he was 42 years older than her. He's 50. She's 8, 9. And then on top of that, he married converts. He married non-Arabs. He married divorcees. He married widows. He married women with children already. Actually, out of all 11, only one of them was Bakira. Only one of them was a virgin. That's it. And on top of that, so that you understand, because sometimes you talk about the wife thing and people like, because they haven't experienced, they don't have an understanding of it, they haven't been educated in it. You have to understand something. If you say, for instance, if you have 9 wives at one time, and you're going to, like now, each of them has to have a fair share of the time. That means that, think about it. I spend one day with this wife. When does she see me again? 9 days later. Because now 8 days have to pass, and then her day is going to come up again. So now you do the calculations. How much time is she actually able to spend with him a month? Yes. And on top of that, so that you can like put some perspective to that, on top of that, anytime the deen, not dunya, not the job, not the boss, not like I want, like no, the deen demanded, he immediately was ready to make sacrifice. Time, effort, money, sweat, tears, blood, whatever. No hesitation, ever. And if that means my family needs to be hungry tonight, so be it. If that means that there's a guest in Medina and that guest eats all the food out of my homes, so be it. And then on top of that, he's got enemies. He fights with his own family. His family members have tried to kill him before. And then the Jews are trying to kill him. Munafiqeen are trying to get rid of him. But if that wasn't enough, because we can understand those social aspects. Oh, no. This guy is prolific with this whole enemy thing. Oh, he's got governments, superpowers that basically have him on a hit list, kind of the no-fly list. This person is a problem, not just in the world. Based on what? The popular socio-political perception of the time. That is in the land that he lives and outside of the land that he lives. So to say that this individual is not a popular individual is a very, very, very strong understatement. He doesn't have a value for wealth. Literally, wealth will come in and he will just give it all away and not take a single dinar or dirham home. How many of you would marry the women in your family to this individual? Be honest. If I asked you what Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam did for a living, what would you say? That he was a businessman? Okay, fine. No. Farmer? Well, we know how that worked out. They came to him. Now, the farmers of Medina actually came to him. We're having some problems with the crops and this and that and the other. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, well, try this and this and this. And they came back to him like, that didn't work. He was like, I'm Rasulullah. I'm not a farmer. That's your job. I just gave you a suggestion. I just gave you advice. It doesn't mean this is why. Right? So no, not a farmer. What do you do for a living? What, say again? Early. All the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam. He was the Imam of the Masjid, based on the terminology currently used today. So now how much respect does the community have for the Imam of the Masjid? I just had a situation here, like I gotta, like, mashallah, try to convince brothers to wait 2-3 minutes to see if the poor imam like had to like a trip or like it just had a hiccup or came out of the bathroom late, to just wait to start also salah. Subhanallah. Who would marry him from the Muslim community today? And forget this whole, because you know who it is. You're not idiots. And like I said, you probably figured it out pretty quick. But now, let's be serious. How many take the name off and just give the details? Does he get married in our community? No. No. But who is he to Allah? Khairul Khalq. The best of creation. So what the heck is wrong with us that we don't see this individual the same way Allah does? What is wrong with us that we hold beliefs, understandings, practices, etc., standards that are completely contradictory to this? So now when a person professes, says, I love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I say, do you? It's not should you. We all know the answer to that. But we die lying to ourselves. This is not about being exposed or embarrassed in front of other people. This is about being exposed in front of ourselves and embarrassed in front of Allah. And God forbid, none of us want to show up. And like, you imagine on Yawm al-Qiyamah, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is there. And now, mind you, when we say Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is there, that thing, that person, that entity, shay, that you know as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is only Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because of the things that you are out of alignment with. So if you don't love those things, if you don't love his way of thinking, if you don't love his worldview, then obviously there is a question to be had about the sincerity of the professed love of the individual. True or not? I told you it was going to be uncomfortable. But that's what's necessary, isn't it? Because like first you have to diagnose the problem and understand the problem, and then Allahu Akbar, then the amazing part happens, the application of the solution. Treatment, right? But if I don't think I'm sick, am I ever going to want treatment? Am I ever going to want the medicine? Am I ever going to want the solution? No, because I feel I'm fine. I feel that I'm healthy and hale. But those, you know, a criminal can always spot another criminal. You know that? Oh, they can tell the shiftiness, The types of moves, like, because they can recognize the patterns of behavior. So a criminal can recognize another criminal. Just like a businessman can recognize another businessman. Even a physician, I found out physicians can recognize another physician, be like, oh, he's a doctor, I can tell. How can you tell? I just know, I can tell. There's just like a manner, there's a way. Like, I don't know, you guys too, huh? When somebody, like, from my perspective, when somebody is like has studied Deen extensively and is like, mashallah, engaged, like, mashallah, like, you can tell. Here's the thing. The same way a criminal can spot another criminal, an enlightened person can spot another enlightened person. So these shuyukh that are out there, these enlightened individuals, these individuals, when they see us, they see that we are not enlightened. Just because we can't see it, right, even amongst ourselves, does not mean that it is absent, that the issue isn't there. It just means that we're not capable of recognizing it. But how do you know when you have cancer? May Allah Ta'ala protect our health. Alhamdulillah ala sihhatina. Is it something that is obvious and apparent? And here's the catch. Usually by the time the cancer is manifesting in the person's like physical health, a lot of times it's too late. So by the time you actually see the symptoms where you can recognize it as an individual, like a lay person, it's too late. What do you need? You need a professional. And then once you find out you have it, you need a professional to treat it, don't you? It's a serious sickness. It's a serious illness. So now when we look at this and we say that here is the best that the ummah has to offer, none of us would ever, like, now if you didn't know who this person was and I said, there's a description and this is the best person the ummah has to offer, please marry your daughters, etc., sisters, whatever have you, like, mashallah, to this individual. Nobody is signing up for that. But I tell you that this is Muhammad, Rasulullah, Nabiullah, Habibullah, Khalilullah, then you will say, oh yes, absolutely, definitely. Now the question is, why aren't we looking for individuals like this to marry the women in our families? Why aren't we raising young men to be like this so that they can actually be like that for somebody, these sisters, as opposed to all the nonsense we deal with today? Because if you think having a beard and a topi is going to do it, I'm telling you, like, Allahu Akbar kabira and alhamdulillah, for going on a solid 2 decades, I have been blessed to be used to do the khidmah of these married couples. And if you think that a beard and a topi is going to save your marriage, or a hijab and niqab is going to save your marriage, or that your marriage is going to be something different or special or better than everybody else's, you're in for a world of hurt. Because you have the same sicknesses. You just look better on the outside, not on the inside. So when we're talking about worldview, you'll hear like Sheikh Amin and other shuyukh, right? Your worldview, and I hear it, right? And I'm like, how many people even understand what a worldview is? Your worldview is your perception on everything you see, hear, taste, touch, smell, like your sensory perception, right? As you are receiving information through all of these inputs. Now, and then there's the one that is you. So now these two things, like a chemical reaction, when they come together, what is the result? What process does it go through to produce that result? Are you aware of the potential influences that are constantly trying to come in and dilute and corrupt, distort those conclusions? That's Shaitan's #1 goal. That's how Shaitan actually takes people out of the fold of Islam without them even knowing it. Example. I just refuse to accept that he married an 8-year-old girl. I you're kafir. Because you're a pervert too. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha says herself that she never saw the private parts of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How many of you husbands can say that? She herself says, I never saw his private parts. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, even when he was relieving himself, he wouldn't look. Even at the remainder, when you're done, he wouldn't look. He would only do it like roughly, I think it was once every 30 days or 40 days to make sure there was no blood in the stool or anything like that, indications of sickness. But he wouldn't even look. And now we are taking that perversion that is in our minds and our cognitive framework, superimposing it over the best of creation. And because of this, now this individual has lost her Islam or lost his Islam. Because there was something wrong in Deen. No, there was something wrong in him. There was something wrong in her. And while they were like trying to process the world and process all this information with no framework whatsoever, they don't have knowledge of Deen, they don't have experiential knowledge, this is nothing. They don't even have like a proper mentor to help them through the process, to navigate the process. And now they're coming up with these conclusions, and they're very vocal about it. So now not only are they responsible for their own sin of disbelief, but now they're going to compound it because they are going to share those sentiments, those conclusions with other individuals, and they are going to further corrupt and destroy their understanding of Deen and potentially cause them to lose their Islam also. And all of it is avoidable. Every last aspect of it is avoidable if we're willing to tell the truth to ourselves. That's the catch. Think about Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, think about his life, and think about how unacceptable it would be today. I'm talking about alive right now today. Can you imagine? Like, let's get everybody alive at one time, right? So now Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has 11 wives. He's got one that's like 15 years older than him. He's got another one. He's 42 years older. He's got 11 of them. And Allahu Akbar. Think about this. And he's supposed to be the leader in the community, but he never has any money. He's constantly having to pawn stuff and borrow money. He wears simple clothes. He only cuts his hair periodically. It's not like a regular. So like in terms of like conceitedness, like no. Like mashallah, alhamdulillah, his Mubarak face and body is naturally a very handsome, amazingly beautiful individual like Yusuf alayhi salam, right? But still, like that conceitedness, that vanity, absent. He would ride around on a donkey, not a Mercedes. Now, mind you, because like to give some like, well, they didn't have Mercedes back then, brother. That's why he didn't drive one. But if maybe, like, no. Before you start making jackalope statements, okay? They had red camels, which were prized at that time. They had the Arabian horse is famous world over, even during that time. Just like weapons from India during that time, you probably didn't, it's like a little footnote thing. Most of the weapons, like especially the best weapons that the Sahaba were using, that you would find in Jazirat al-Arab in the Arabian Peninsula, were actually produced in India. You know that, huh? Yeah, mashallah. You were actually giving to Islam before you even knew it. So, because we have to wrap this up, because I got my timer. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "In the ma'bu'athtu," so the only reason why I have been sent is to do what? To ennoble the akhlaq of the human being. Through what? Islam. So if you don't practice Islam, will your akhlaq be ennobled? The answer is no. So now we need to address this issue where we have all these young people and these like, mashallah, getting married now, and they're making stupid statements to their parents. The parents come to me with tears in their eyes, and I can completely understand because their child is telling them, After the parents made all this effort and sacrifice for their dunya and everything, but like not so much on the deen side. So this is how we got here. So now, Allahu Akbar, now this parent is saying, my child is telling me that he or she just wants to be a good person, and that's enough. I can tell by your actions you've encountered this also. I just, just be a good person, don't hurt anybody, right? Like, be generous, like, and that's my goal in life, to be a good person. Okay, this is where you get them, okay? Because this is a completely bogus, this is complete nonsense. This is like first graders coming up and like rambling on about something, all right? Complete and total utter nonsense. First of all, what is good? Do not give me this generic word, good. It's like nice. Yeah, let's qualify your statement then. What is good and what is bad? How do you know? I have deen. I have Islam. I have wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I have almost 1,500 years of piety and scholarship backing me up. What do you got for your definition of good and your definition of bad? And a person. Well, what makes us human? If you want to talk about a person, what makes us different than animals? Intelligence and existential consciousness. We are aware of our mortality. From a young age, we are aware of the possibility of our inescapable death. Right? Are you a person? Or are you living like an animal? Oh, excuse me. By your perception and by your definition, a really good animal. Right? You want a good animal? Get a cat. Okay? Call it a day. You don't want to deal with the cat? Fine. Goldfish, whatever. Get a bird. But your understanding of good person is not going to get you past cat, bird. Because what is good person? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the definition of good person. So when somebody says, I just want to be a good person, tell them, MashaAllah, me too. We're on the same mission. Let me tell you about good person. Because it's good, generic. That's like nice. So instead of good, let's say best. The most excellent. Awesome. Because he's khairul khalq. And I'll end with this. When you hear khalq or akhlaq, you just start thinking about, a lot of times, the Muslim ummah, character, right? And you start thinking about, well, I need to be polite, right? Say please and thank you and don't be rude and don't lie. And that's all 100% included. But again, it's on an elementary level. That's your introduction to akhlaq. That's your introduction to khulq and khalq. It's the introduction. It's not the end all be all. It's definitely not the last stop on that ride. Okay? So what are we talking about? And this is what I want you to walk away from tonight. You have to know who you are before you can define how you are. You have to know who you are before you can truly define how you are. So you have two steps, these two essential steps that at some point all of us need to make these steps, 2 steps. Number one, who am I right now? And how am I right now? Step number one. And this is sitting down, do your dhikr, make dua, do your istighfar, right? Everything. And sit just with Allah. Nobody else. So you don't have to worry about being embarrassed. You don't have to, there's no reason to lie, because you can't lie to Allah. Allah already knows the truth about us. So you're going to sit in front of Allah and lie about yourself to Allah, in front of Allah? Hopefully not. But ask yourself, based on the template of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and as that template was followed by the Sahaba, who am I today? And how am I today? Am I honorable? Am I kind? Am I trustworthy? Am I accountable? Am I generous? And so on and so forth. Am I altruistic? Do I stay in a constant state of dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Am I selfless? Do I put other people's needs before my own needs? Do I track what I like to make sure that I spend a significant portion of my day doing things for other people without wanting anything in return for them? Not appreciation, not thanks, not gratitude, not recognition, no accolades, nothing. Doing it just for the sake of Allah. And here's it is. Your worldview is a part of your akhlaq. The same way when you talk about being rude or polite, that's how you treat an individual. How do you treat humanity? How do you treat the world and everything that's going on in it? That also has a response. And that is where our Islam comes in. Without knowledge of Islam and without knowledge of our own selves, honest, blunt force trauma. Do not be shy to like go ahead and kick your nuffs where it hurts, so to speak. Okay? It's okay if it's lying there writhing on the ground for a while. It's caused enough trouble up until this point. So give it a good swift kick and just like tell us like you stay down there for a minute. We got some important work to get done here between me and my Rabb, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Messing around with you, you're going to end up like getting all like whole situation destroyed. So what? So I can feel comfortable with the lie. So I can feel comfortable with my ego. So I can feel comfortable with my perceived social status or financial status. What benefit is that? To a whole bunch of selfish people around me. And that's the kicker. We do all this stuff for other people, not even realizing that most of the people don't care about you. The only time they actually care about you is as it relates to them. They really don't care about you. Vast majority of them. I would go so far as to say that above 9 out of 10 individuals in your life truly do not care about you. Not because they don't want to necessarily, some of them maybe, but because they don't know how to. They're selfish. They've never learned to be selfless. So of course, even when they love you, they're selfish. Even when they're trying to be nice to you, they're selfish. Even when they're engaging in their relationship with you, they are selfish. But it's not you. That's how they are with everybody. And when you understand this, you will save yourself the drama and trauma of trying to please people and to reach their expectations. You have one entity to please and only one set of expectations to meet. And it only comes from one Rabb, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sit with Allah and find out that step one. Who are you really? And how are you really? And then you're ready for step two after you get this one checked and confirmed. With who? Go to the doctor. Go see the professional. Sit down with him. This is what I'm going through. This is what's happening right now. Here's my conclusions. This is what I'm thinking. He'll make some adjustments. I almost guarantee it. Minor, right? But he'll make some adjustments for you. And it will be 100% for your benefit, inshallah. And then from there, you're ready for step two. Who do you want to be? And how do you want to be? Now, when you go for education, Allahu Akbar Kabira, you're not just sitting in class. You're not just taking a course. Now, oh, no. I'm on a mission. I'm learning why? Because I'm learning who I want to be and how I want to be. Internalize. How do you get any more internalized than that? With this alone, if we can get young people to do this alone, with us as mentors, as practical examples in our day-to-day lives, we can turn this entire situation that we're dealing with here around. We can turn that corner in such a relatively short period of time. It would amaze you, but it would be by the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's what happens when we obey Allah. That's what happens when we walk in the footsteps of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All the barakah and all the fadl comes from Allah. The rahmah rains down on our heads from Allah. The maghfirah, right, enshrouds us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now no matter what difficulty or challenge you're going through, you will be like those families we were talking about in COVID, right? Everybody else is stressing out and freaking out and like they're getting angry and frustrated and irritated. And you got these beautiful Muslim families that are sitting there and they're just getting closer to each other, right? Strengthening their relationships as Muslim family members and getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But can that only happen during COVID? When we're locked in the house? No. It's accessible to us every day if we want it. We just have to want it. And that's really what it comes down to in the end. We don't want it. For me personally, this is the hardest thing to deal with. You know something is good. You know you should do that thing. You know all the benefits that are coming from that thing. You know the harms that are coming if you don't do that thing. But then you got to get that thing done. And shaitan is there and nafs is there and you got all the challenges and everything that comes along with it. And it's just easier to take what? The path of least resistance. Because this is the path of most resistance. And a lot of times we just like fold up shop and then we go that way. I know, I go through it too. I'm a human being just like you guys. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of us. May Allah ta'ala make it easy for all of us. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that understanding and that desire to want what He wants. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from wanting anything from this dunya, because that is the path of destruction. You want anything from this dunya, you will pay a price that is exorbitant, to say the least. To say the least. May Allah Ta'ala preserve our Jannah, the Jannah of our family members. May Allah Ta'ala shower us with His maghfirah and rahmah. اللهم اغفر لنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Questions?
Well, we are living in the environment, very hard environment nowadays. You know, a lot of pressure, you know. Okay.
I already see where you're going. 100%. You are at 100% correct. 100% correct. The environment here, like you have to generate this understanding within an environment. That's what our masajid are supposed to be. That's what we're supposed to turn them into. I had a teacher tell me our masajid are no longer safe places anymore. Especially for young people, converts, like those who don't fit in to the social norms that may exist within that community. It's not a safe place for them. So in lieu of that, there are many shuyukh, ulama, khudama. They're not like scholars or anything, but mashallah, Allah Ta'ala has blessed them with an understanding and a passion of developing the what's necessary to facilitate our overall health and benefit of the community, right? And this is where now you see all of the efforts that are going into as far as like, you know, ourselves, even Islam of Mind, right? So there's an effort like as far as like a gym and recreation center for the youth and everything, but tied in with like so they can learn their deen at the same time. And so on and so forth. There's any number of things, the camping thing and going out, any number of things. Any number of things. But we have to generate that environment. And when we say generate an environment, know something. It's really one thing. It's not the building. The Muslim community is fixated on buildings. It's not the building. It's the people, no matter where you put them. You put some amazing people. I don't care if you put them in a field, right? The environment has been generated. And if you go and sit with them, you'll have an amazing experience, inshallah. But you take some really bad people and put them in a luxurious building, right? That building, it's like, you'll feel like it's just a really nice bathroom, all right? You go in, you notice it, but at the same time, you still can't wait to get out. You relieve yourself, do what you got to do, and you'll leave there. Because at the end of the day, it's just a bathroom. Some people, like, they generate environments like that. So when you're talking about environment, in all actuality, what you're really saying is we need a serious core group of Muslims that are willing to come together in the footsteps of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the Sahaba radhiyallahu ta'ala anhum and do what needs to be done. And I'll tell you, like this is the mission I am on. And I'll tell you where the challenge will come in. I have so many brothers and mashallah, different levels of consistency. Here's where it is. We're wealthy here. And as one wealthy brother taught me, he himself told me, he says, why when I didn't have money, I was more generous. And as I got wealthier and wealthier and wealthier, and now I'm like doing really good, I'm stingy. He's like, I noticed this change in myself. And I was like, may Allah bless you. This is what I'm talking about. Be honest with yourself, right? That's what he's doing. He's like, I'm more stingy. And it's like, subhanAllah, at least you recognize it. That's the reason why we don't have the environment. We have people that are willing to give money to bad leaders, bad management, lost causes, money where they don't even know where it ends up, to individuals who end up like using that money for other means and other agendas and intents, so on and so forth. Meaning like the Muslim community, when it comes to spending their money for themselves, right? Making, investments and so on and so forth. And do I want to get involved with this business? Oh, subhanAllah, they will scrutinize the heck out of it. But when it comes to this, not so much. So we have all of these organizations that are in the Chicagoland area. There's well over 300. Well over 300. They are not of all of them are not of the same caliber. My suggestion to you is donate and support those organizations that are willing to do what's necessary to generate those environments accurately, correctly. Not in piecemeal, not what we got just this part. We're not worried about these parts. No. Holistically, they're willing to do it. And there's components to it. And some of these organizations are working on those on that component level. You take care of the education aspect. We'll take care of the health and recreation aspect. You take care of with the women and children aspect, right? They're doing it. We just need the Muslim Ummah to actually be generous.
You have a list that you recommend on this 300?
Say again?
You have a list that you recommend personally? 300.
Oh, you're gonna ask me? I got one on that list, brother. Maybe 3. I got 3 on my list. That's it. But I think I'm biased. But I will be open with you. I am 100% biased. So if you come to me, you're gonna hear the names of 3 organizations, right? I'm gonna absolutely Islam of Mine, and you're gonna get Darul Qasim, and the third one you have to come ask me privately. But those are the 3. Now, does that mean that's all of them? No, by no means. Please. You guys are going to end up having me there'll be pitchforks and torches and everything outside my front door and be like, we heard you said no. There's some legit organizations out there. Calm down, right? I'm getting feathers ruffled and everything. I'm just saying do your due diligence. When you see these problems and some of the solutions that as far as the things that we need are obvious and these things are still not getting done, but people are still giving money and that money is going where? Do you know how many millions, tens of millions, hundreds are spent in the Muslim community just in the Chicagoland area annually? Where's the evidence of it? The population of the Muslim community in the Chicagoland area is steadily increasing. Even though the trend for the state of Illinois, I think they lost something like 200,000 residents, high taxes, people are ticked off with the government stuff and all that, right? So people are actually leaving the state of Illinois. But the Muslim community in the state of Illinois is actually increasing. And the amount of money that is being made by Muslims, because now it's different. Say in the 70s, 80s, 90s, when people were the first family members were just getting here. They were starting off from scratch. They were struggling. I remember them, right? These guys were grinding. And then subhanAllah, now they're wealthy, they're affluent, they're retired. They got big houses, multiple cars, campers, vacations here, there, and everywhere. Allahu Akbar. They brought all the family members over here. MashaAllah. Now everybody's going to college and university and getting good jobs. And the Muslim community is known for being educated, university educated. The Muslim community is known for being educated and hard workers to non-Muslims. They talk to me about these things. I say, yes, mashallah. Right? So with more people, better jobs, and more money, where's the evidence? If what I'm saying is not true, I would love to be wrong. I would bask in my error, if you will. Okay? I would love to be wrong. Prove me wrong. And if you can't, then let's work together on the solutions. Okay? And it's going to have to start. You know, Shaykh was just talking earlier, subhanAllah, بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ وَأَنفُسِهِمْ. I had never even thought about it. It always comes before you sacrifice yourself, sacrifice your money first. Allah Ta'ala mentions things in the Quran in a specific order. It's by intent, of course. So yeah, say sacrifice your time. Yes, brother, I'm ready. Sacrifice your money. How much? Okay? And that will get us the environment that we want. So how do you because everybody's like, well, how much is should I give? I will tell you the easiest answer. Because the one that's given to me is the one that I try to function from, and here it is. If you are thinking about amounts, you're still in the minor leagues. When you start thinking about percentages, you know you're a serious Muslim. Okay? When you start thinking about percentages, then okay, look at it. So say, for instance, this guy, okay? We call him Abdullah, Muhammad Abdullah, okay? Muhammad Abdullah is mashallah, Allah Ta'ala has blessed me and by his fadl, Allah Kareem, mashallah, I'm blessed. I'm living this lavish lifestyle. I'm so comfortable. Now I have to give back, okay? So he's I'm going to give 15% of my income annually for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not as good as the Sahaba, right? But the minimum is a 10%, right? 1/10. So you do 10% of what the Sahaba did. So I got my 10%. I add a 5% onto it just because I know how I am, right? Got to make up for all the bad stuff. So I'm going to add another 5% just because I need some security here. Okay? 15%. I'm just going to give it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, instead of just going and dropping it off at any masjid or wherever happens to be the closest donation box, mashallah, he's now I'm investing in this deen, and I want this money to actually have the most impact and help the most Muslims in the Muslim community as is possible. So now he does his due diligence, and he goes and he actually speaks with members of organizations, and he asks for things like transparency reports and updates and things like that, right? And then mashallah, he says, now I am with you. I'm going to roll with you. That's the reason why I went through this whole process. So 15%, mashallah, there's a percentage of it, I'll give to the masjid. There's a percentage of it, I'm going to give to but this percentage is yours. Every year. Whatever it happens to be. I make more money, mashallah, we're all going to benefit. Whatever that percentage is, it's yours. Let me know when I can come and do khidmah, physically. I did amwalihim, now time to do anfusihim. That's when you know you're serious. We like to think we're serious, don't we? Especially when we look in the mirror. Or our wives. Right? Look how serious I am. This is the face of a serious leader. Rabbul Bayt. Yeah, again. Let's get rid of the delusions. Instead of putting on masks and generating performances, right, based on the expectations of the people that are present at that time, why not just really figure out who we are and who we want to be and how we want to be and just focus on that in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can't lose. Your worst case scenario is he almost became like Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Brother, if I can die and you say that about me, I'm a happy camper. Was he like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Yeah, no. He's really trying, but no. I'm okay with that. I want to die trying. And you should want to too. So let's do it together, inshallah. And if I die first, you come to my janazah. And if you go first, inshallah, I'll be there for yours. Yes?
Well, the other thing I have is the young people nowadays, they're getting more information from the social media perspective. And it's kind of hard to persuade them, to be a good Muslim, woman or something.
Parents' fault.
Huh?
Parents and community's fault.
No, because the thing is that how can you change this environment, especially that they're getting the information from.
You can't.
I mean, that's what I'm
No, 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 you can't. Social media is going to be, but you have to look at it this way, Joey Bar. Like Shaitan is always going to be there, man. You know what I mean? Like Shaitan is always going to be there, right? So like we're not going to be able to like completely negate, right, any negativity or like, you know, people trying to resist us or causing drama. Like we got to be realistic here, right? But at the same time, when you're talking about the kids, it's like, why are we so quick to blame people that have only been on this earth for like 18, 19, 20 years or less, right? And on top of that, they didn't even have the benefit. I'm talking to these teenagers now. They don't even remember what it's like before cell phones and the internet. We do. So who's going to give that perspective if not us? They don't even know what that is. But we do. And we have an expectation from them that, you know, like, you don't need this. You know, they grew up with it. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's the parents that put the tools in their hands. So now who's raising our children? The school, and you don't know what the heck is going on in there. The entertainment industry, and you don't want to know what the heck is going on in there. And the internet and social media. And again, it's the worst probably out of the three. And this is what's raising our children. And then we get surprised, shocked, and amazed, astounded, grief-stricken when the kids now become adults and they like basically like put it full bore, like full manifestation. I am going to show you, my beloved parents, the results of your effort or lack thereof. I am going to become a mirror of your hypocrisy. I am going to become a mirror of your ignorance. And although I do have my own culpability to deal with, I am not blameless in this scenario. You also share a portion of that blame. When we start thinking like this about our young people, and instead of blaming them, actually take responsibility for our part of the negative aspect of their lives today. Because we haven't environment. That's the reason why we're sitting here talking about it right now, right? We like, oh, this masjid has been here for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, now some 40 years. And it's like, subhanAllah. And you look at it and it's like, you can tell. Maintenance issues as far as like there's no improvement, just kind of like the same thing or worse year in, year over and over and over again. No growth. We see that, like, again, you know all the issues. I don't even like talking, like we already know what it is. We know what we experience when we go to the communities, like what the where the bar is at. It's real low. And everybody loves standing on the sidelines to complain about it. I am telling you, I will stand in the middle of the field on the team logo. I'm daring you to come out on the field and play with me. Let's go on the front lines. Let's dig in. It's so hard to find these people. They'll talk about it. They'll complain about it. They'll give you ideas about it. Oh my God, if I were to tell you guys about how many, like, mashallah, I'm under a waterfall of ideas. Oh, it's just like, oh, mashallah, it's so refreshing. Mashallah, a waterfall of ideas. And some really good ones too, but they're irrelevant because who's going to do it? Who's going to pay for it? Well, yeah, see, what, Mom? Mom's calling. Wife? Wife's calling. I have to go. See you tomorrow. Fine. Don't complain. Don't complain about your kids. Don't complain about like your personal problems. Don't complain about your finances. Don't complain. Don't go to ulama and complain when you are not willing to do your part. Trust me, they're looking at you and they're thinking, what the heck does he think I'm going to do? What is he wanting here? You want the pleasure of Allah, a good lifestyle, social acceptance. Your expectations are so far beyond realistic, you can't even see them anymore. And now you're coming to me to complain about you're not getting what you want. Well, guess what? My beautiful brother, my beautiful sister, it's not about what you want. You are supposed to learn to want what Allah wants. That's the point of this life. Learn to want what Allah wants. And if you don't want what Allah wants, which is exactly what we're talking about, the only question that remains is, why not? He wants it for us for our benefit. If you don't want it, that means you don't want the benefit. Why not? How do you and I answer? How do we respond to that question? We know that there's nothing in our deen that is for our harm. True? Is there anybody here that believes that there's any aspect, the prohibitions, the amr, the orders, is there any aspect, do you believe there's any aspect that is detrimental to your overall well-being in this dunya as well as in the akhirah? If you do, please come talk to me afterwards. We need to clarify that. Okay? Because there's none. It's all 100% for your benefit, my benefit, our family's benefit, community's benefit, humanity's benefit, and the past benefit, present benefit, future benefit. That's the beauty of Ar-Rahman. So if we're not getting the benefit from our deen, it's because we're not wanting what Allah wants. We're out of alignment. Why don't I want what Allah wants? Why don't I love what Rasulullah ﷺ loved? Why don't I see good person as strictly being defined by him as opposed to the standards established by the social norms in a non-Muslim society? And then we pressure our kids to do what? Conform. Comply with society. Fit in. So they do. And they're done. May Allah Ta'ala protect them and save them. اللهم اغفر لنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات يا مثبت القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك يا مصرف القلوب صرف قلوبنا على طاعتك اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة ونسألك من فضلك يا ذا الفضل العظيم اللهم لا سهل إنما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا صلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.